Hey everyone, how's it going? Azrin here, owner of the Calgary Language Nerds, and welcome to another Learn Gujarati with me YouTube video and podcast episode. So, as you guys may or may not know, I have recently made a small change to the format of these podcast episodes. For the first maybe 15 episodes, something like that, maybe 20 episodes, it was very much focused on grammar, teaching sentence structure, teaching grammar rules, sometimes maybe doing some vocabulary. I think I did one or two videos like that. Then I switched a little bit to some casual chit chat style of podcasts where I would talk in Gujarati. And now we're doing some more fully fledged episodes that are more robust and have some more meat to them. It's about trying to help you to really, 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 really reach whatever level of fluency that you want to reach in the Gujarati language. So the format of these episodes since the previous episode is I'll start off by doing 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes of some tried and true language learning advice that would work for Gujarati or really for any language. And then we'll transition into some Gujarati language practice overall. So I'll try and get both of those two things done. I do believe that both of those are going to be very important when you are trying to reach whatever fluency goals you have in the Gujarati language, whether it's really, really advanced or just some basics or whatever it may be. So last time in the language learning advice portion of these videos/podcasts, I was talking about the importance of active vocabulary and really vocabulary as a whole. So if you want to be proficient in another language, whether it's Gujarati, French, Spanish, doesn't matter what language it is, your vocabulary size is arguably the most important part of the equation. Arguably, the most important part of the equation is your vocabulary size, the number of words and phrases that you have internalized and that you know very well. Now, vocabulary size actually splits into two separate categories. The first one is called active vocabulary size, and the second one is called your passive vocabulary size. Active vocabulary refers to words and phrases that you can quickly access and use yourself. So this would be, for example, in the middle of a conversation, what kinds of things can you say without thinking very hard? So in Gujarati, maybe you can say "Kem cho." Maybe "Kem cho" is something you say very easily. You don't have to think, it just comes out. That's probably, and everyone watching or listening to this, "Kem cho" is perhaps, for all of you, one of the phrases, or yes, one of the phrases that is in your active vocabulary category. Now, passive vocabulary size is a little bit different. Passive refers to words and phrases that maybe you don't use very much. Maybe they're words and phrases you don't even feel fully comfortable using, maybe. But if you were to hear someone use them, you would understand, you do know what it means, and yeah. So the passive vocabulary size refers much more to your ability to comprehend reading material or when you're listening. Active vocabulary is related much more to output, so writing perhaps or speaking. Now, I told you last time that if you want to increase your vocabulary size, whether it be active or passive, just increasing your vocabulary in general, your two best ways to do that are to listen and or to read. That's what we talked about last time. Vocabulary is not something that, as a general rule of thumb, I would not be someone who would recommend increasing vocabulary by doing a whole bunch of studying. So we don't need to do a whole bunch of flashcards. We don't need to study all these vocabulary lists. It's much more about doing authentic listening and or authentic reading. Ideally, we want to be reading and listening to material that is at your level, that it's not way too advanced. So if you're a beginner, watching a movie where there's no subtitles and you're just listening, like that very well could be far too advanced, given that you're a complete beginner in the language. So ideally, we want to find material that is at your level. Now, the challenge in Gujarati, and one of the reasons why I make these videos, is that on the listening front, we don't have a lot of beginner or intermediate listening material. There's a lot of advanced material because if you're advanced, you can use native level content. You can find a podcast for native speakers and just listen to that. You can find TV shows. You can find natak. You can find serials and shows, and there's all this content you can find that is for native speakers. And as an advanced learner, you could use that. The problem is when you're intermediate or if you're beginner, there's very little beginner friendly content that exists. And so one of the purposes for this YouTube channel is to provide that beginner level content. But I will say this. I will say that for Gujarati, I often recommend that people learn how to read. I often recommend that. Most of the Gujarati learners I talk to are not interested in learning how to read. They think that they care more about the speaking and listening, which I perfectly understand. In fact, I was the same way for a very long time. It wasn't until I learned to read that I realized that it's so helpful for the Gujarati language. There are more beginner-friendly reading resources than there are listening resources in Gujarati. So if you could learn to read, the number of learning methods and also the number of resources that now open up to you that are now at your disposal quadruples or goes up by 5 times or 6 times. You all of a sudden have so many additional resources at your disposal for you to use to learn this lovely language. Now, you may wonder, how do you learn to read? Well, I do have some videos on my channel. I don't remember what episodes they are, but you can go through the channel, go through the podcast. The reading ones are, I don't remember if I put the videos on Spotify or not. Maybe I did, maybe not. But at any rate, on YouTube, if you search to learn Gujarati with me, you'll find the YouTube channel. And I do have some videos on that. But there's lots. The good news is there are lots of resources to learn how to read. I won't get too deep into it today, but I'll give you a very basic tip for learning how to read. Learning how to write the letters, right, will help you tremendously when it comes to learning how to read them. Learning to write will help you a lot for learning to read. That's like a golden tip I can give you. And on Google, if you literally just search Gujarati alphabet practice tracing sheets, you'll find there are people who put tracing sheets, print it out, trace. There are YouTube videos as well that teach how to pronounce every single letter. I mean, I have that on my channel, but there are other YouTube channels that also teach how to pronounce the letters. So the good news is learning how to write and learning how to read, it's not crazy difficult. In fact, it's easier than many people would think it is. So that's definitely something worth mentioning today. Now, going back to vocabulary size. I was telling you last time that your vocabulary size has a halo effect on your overall Gujarati level. It has a halo effect on your overall Gujarati level. What is it? What do I mean by halo effect? Well, the more you increase your vocabulary size, both passive and active, by the way, on both sides of the equation, the more you increase your vocabulary size, the better you get in Gujarati in lots of different areas. Your listening comprehension goes up, your reading comprehension goes up, your ability to speak goes up. Often it can help with pronunciation as well. Not always, but often that can happen. Often it helps with grammar as well. Again, not always, but frequently will help with grammar. And so by doing a lot of listening and reading, you will increase your vocabulary size. When your vocabulary size goes up, a lot of different aspects of your Gujarati improve simultaneously. And so one of the myths that we have about language learning, whether it's Gujarati or Japanese or French or any language, one of the myths that if you go back to old videos, not on this channel, I have another YouTube channel as well, which has way more videos. But if you go back to my old videos from 10 years ago, you probably could find videos where I talk about the importance of doing speaking practice. Probably. I bet you those exist. Probably. And I think speaking practice is great, but I think speaking practice really, it pretty much is useful from what I can tell right now in two different circumstances. There are two circumstances where doing speaking practice seemed to me that it would be helpful. So the first circumstance is if you already have a pretty big vocabulary size, especially if it's active vocabulary, especially you have a pretty big active vocabulary size, which by the way is pretty easy to figure out. You could probably just ask any AI platform to roughly estimate your active vocabulary size, frankly. But if not, I can do an assessment. It takes about half an hour. It's not a very long process. It took me a long time to figure out how to do it, but now I can. Anyway, if you have a big active vocabulary size, but you're really unable to speak, like speaking just doesn't happen, like it's like, oh my God, this is so hard, that's a perfect time, most likely, for you to do more speaking practice. Because you don't have a vocabulary problem, you genuinely have a speaking problem. Now, if we get really scientific about it, the way you would know if you have the way I would know, in fact, I can even give you the rubric. The way you would know if you have if speaking is truly the problem, no, this is really complicated. It would take me like 2 hours to unpack this. I'll give you a very quick overview. I think it'd be way too hard to really unpack this. It would take way too long. But in short, what I would look at if I was doing an assessment with you, I would look at your speech rate. I would look at how many words per minute on average. It'll fluctuate. It fluctuates quite a bit. But on average, when you're talking about some topic that you're somewhat familiar with, what is your average speech rate measured in words per minute? You compare someone, if you're not saying many words per minute, if you're like kind of talking really slowly, but you have a very high active vocabulary size, that's an indication to me you need to practice speaking more. And then what you'll notice is people's words per minute increases. And eventually it matches. If they have like an intermediate vocabulary size, you want them to have an intermediate speech rate, roughly speaking. Yeah. So anyway, the point is, I got really technical there, which we didn't need to. But the point is that if your vocabulary is high and your speaking ability is really low, it probably means you have to talk more. You have to do more speaking practice. The second time that we have to do more speaking practice, it has to do with social skills. So often people don't have a vocabulary problem. They don't even really have a speaking problem. Not really. What they have is a social skills problem. So I'll tell you something I've observed frequently when I work with different language learners and have worked with them for many, many, many years now. And I've experienced this myself as a language learner too. So language learners in their first language have good social skills. Like they know how to talk to people and they just know how to, right? We know how. We've practiced our whole lives, right? So we know how to talk to our friends and our parents. And it's just natural. It's normal. We don't even think about it. But in our second language, somehow or another, even if we have the language skills, we know we can talk, we know the grammar, we can understand. In theory, we have the ability to communicate. But the problem is that we get so nervous and anxious that our social skills go out the window. And so a lot of that speaking practice, often it's not even, yes, you're practicing speaking, but that's not why you're practicing speaking. You're practicing speaking as a way to break bad habits that you have because you're nervous. And this is so, where this is specific to Gujarati. I'll give you a really narrow example for Gujarati. So if you're a heritage Gujarati, if Gujarati is your heritage language, like your family speaks it, but you're learning it now, one thing I know for a fact about almost all of you is that you have there's some kind of a wall between you and the people that you talk to in your family. It could be, the wall could take many forms. It could be that you would feel uncomfortable speaking in Gujarati with them. It could take the form of a habit. You habitually speak English and it feels weird to speak Gujarati. It could be, even me, like I'm a really good example of this. So with my family, I have spoken Gujarati in a very specific way my whole life. And it's not really all that correct. Like I grew up speaking Gujarati, but there are a lot of mistakes and it wasn't like as good as well as I speak now, right? And then I studied Gujarati outside of a family context. I studied with someone who wasn't in my family. I practiced with people who weren't in my family. I consumed content by just people on the internet. And the way that I learned Gujarati is the way that I speak Gujarati is not the way that my family speaks it. So now I actually feel I'm very comfortable in the language now, but weirdly with my family, I'm so used to talking to them in a certain way that I can't even bring my full Gujarati abilities to the family situation. I'm like, I don't know, like the words don't come to mind. I freeze up. It's like, what the heck is going on? It's very peculiar. But that kind of experience if you're a heritage speaker of the Gujarati language, you probably have experienced that in your own way. I think it's really individual to each person, but it's a very common feeling that Gujarati, in fact, any heritage, well, maybe not any, but we can at least say for Gujarati heritage language speakers, that is a very common type of a feeling that we often have. And so doing speaking practice can help to alleviate, help to get rid of that social anxiety, that nervousness we might have to talk to people in our families, our friends, or whoever it may be. So those are the two times where speaking practice are really useful. But beyond that, if you have a speaking practice problem, if that's how it feels, 9 times on 10, you just have a vocabulary problem. 9 times on 10, the problem you really have is you haven't done enough listening and or reading. That's the big problem. Okay, we've done enough theory for today. Let's dive into some Gujarati practice. So we'll do, as I mentioned, let me get a sip of water here as well. Kind of thirsty. Put this microphone down. All right. Okay. So we're going to make, as you guys know, on this YouTube channel right now, we're doing a lot of like listening style of videos because you need to do a lot of listening and or reading to increase your vocabulary. By the way, I do enjoy making grammar videos. I actually love making grammar videos, and that is also lacking for Gujarati learners. Like we are definitely missing grammar. There are very few good grammar videos on the internet. But I actually don't know what grammar videos to make. So if you have specific topics you want me to cover, like I would love to make videos on them. I just need the suggestions. So I'm like, I don't know what to make. So help me help you. If there's specific grammar topics you want me to cover, leave it in the comments. You can always email me as well. There's typically in the video description box, there's a link to my website. Go to the contact form, email me, let me know what topics you want covered. I'd be happy to do that for you. Okay, let me share my screen and let's do some chit chat. Let's do some chit chat here. You can do some listening practice. Okay, so we have our random image generator. I'll pick some pictures. I'll talk in Gujarati, explain some words I'm using, and we'll try to gradually, naturally, authentically increase your vocabulary. તો આ ઈંડુ છે. ઈંડુ અંગ્રેજીમાં કહેવાય egg. તો ઈંડુ એટલે egg. So this is an egg. ઈંડુ. તો આ ઈંડુ છે. ને ઈંડામાં એક પક્ષી છે. So ઈંડામાં, oh, hang on, we might have lost, hang on a sec here. Oh no, do you know what's funny? I might have lost, sorry, you might have had an audio cut there. Maybe yes, maybe not. Let me just reset that. Sorry. If it didn't cut, then whatever, but it might have cut. Let me just redo that. Okay, here we go. It should be good. Okay, so a indu છે. Indu એટલે egg. So indu is egg. A indu છે. ને ઈંડામાં પક્ષી છે. Pakshi is a bird. So ઈંડામાં પક્ષી છે. Notice, by the way, so use your ears for this one. I'm not going to type on the screen. Use your ears. Indu has an u at the end. But if I say in the egg, we say indama. So indu transforms into inda when we have when we have the word ma after. We saw something very similar in the previous episode. You're welcome to go back. I was telling you we were looking at a funny looking couch, and I said sofa. What did I say? I think I said sofa ni upar. I think I said. So when we have what are called prepositions, when we have on, in, beside, these kinds of location words, frequently we're going to have these oos and os that transform to a. So I'll try and give lots of examples today. So a induce, indama પક્ષી છે. પક્ષી એટલે શું? પક્ષી એટલે bird. ને પક્ષીને દેખાય છે કે અહીંયા ચાંચ છે, ચાંચ. ચાંચ એટલે beak. ને મારે બીજું શું કહેવું છે? હું માંસ નથી ખાતો. માંસ એટલે શું? માંસ એટલે meat. So માંસ. હું માંસ ખાતો નથી. So I don't eat meat. હું માંસ ખાતો નથી. If you're a woman, you would say હું માંસ ખાતી નથી. તો હું માંસ ખાતો નથી, પણ હું ઈંડા ખાઉં છું. હું ઈંડા ખાઉં છું. But I eat eggs. Okay. I can't think of anything else interesting to say about this picture, so let's do another one. Oh, મને ખબર નહીં કે આ વરુ છે કે કૂતરો. I'm just joking. ના આ કૂતરો છે, ના કૂતરો ખબર નહીં કે આ કૂતરો ખુશ છે કે exactly ગુસ્સે છે કે મને ખબર નથી. So let's go back slower. આ કૂતરો છે. કૂતરો is a dog. અને મને ખબર નથી એટલે I don't know. મને ખબર નથી કે આ કૂતરો ગુસ્સે છે. ગુસ્સે is angry. મને ખબર નથી કે આ કૂતરો ગુસ્સે છે કે ખુશ છે. ખુશ is happy. તો ખુશ છે કે ગુસ્સે છે? મને ખબર નથી. ખબર નહીં. અને બીજું શું કહો આ ફોટો વિશે? અને ખબર નહીં. I'll tell you a little story about dogs, I guess. જ્યારે હું નાનો હતો, so જ્યારે હું નાનો હતો, when I was young, if you were a woman and you wanted to say when I was young, you would say જ્યારે હું નાની હતી. Nano for men, nani for women. So જ્યારે હું નાનો હતો, ત્યારે કેટલા કૂતરા હતા? 1 2 કેટલા કૂતરા? 3. એક કૂતરોનું નામ હતું TJ. So ek kutroનું નામ TJ. So one dog. So anytime we have like the word nu, like NU, ek kutraનું નામ. So nu is kind of like, you know, in English we have like an apostrophe S, kind of like what's an example? Like if I said Sarah's dog, right? In Gujarati, that apostrophe S, Sarah's dog, Sarah nu, or Sarah was nu, no, and na. There's a couple different options, but Sera no kutro in that case. We have nu no na ni. I think I have a whole video about that at some point. I think I have a video about that specifically. But the point is, nu no na and ni, all 4 of those are kind of like an apostrophe S. So I said kutranu nam. So the dog's name. Kutranu nam. Ek kutranu nam hatu TJ. Pachi bija kutranu nam su hatu Felicia. Ne ત્રીજો મને યાદ નથી. મને યાદ નથી means I don't know. So I had 3 dogs. એકનું નામ હતું Felicia, એકનું નામ હતું TJ, ને the third one I don't remember anymore. યાદ નથી મને. If you want to say I don't remember, we say મને યાદ નથી. Yad is like kind of like memory, I suppose. મને યાદ નથી, so I don't have any memory of it. મને યાદ નથી. Okay, this picture is done. I struggled with this picture. I really didn't know what to say about it. This is a weird picture, but I don't really know what to say about it, so let's skip it. Okay. આ શું છે? ટમેટું છે કે શું છે? I don't know what this is. Let's skip this as well. Nothing interesting to say about that. Okay. Yeah, we can talk a bit about this. Chalo. Actually, I have a story. with this picture here. તો હું ક્યારે 2000 ક્યારે ગયો હતો હું 2009 મને લાગે છે. So 2009. You guys might not know your numbers. I'll say it slowly. Be is 2. Hajar, 1000. Be hajar, no. So 9. Be hajar no ma. So 2009. Hun be hajar no ma. Hun Peru gayo to. So I went to Peru. If you're a woman, by the way, you'd say hun Peru gai hati. Hun Peru gai hati. Men hun Peru gayo hato. And then also, I think I don't have a video on this, but I can make a separate one. Request it if you want it. A lot of the H's in Gujarati, we drop them. So we can say hun Peru gayo hato, hun Peru gai hati for women. But the hato, we can also just drop the H. We could say hun Peru gayo to, gayo hato or gayo to. Both are correct when we talk anyway. તો હું પેરુ ગયો તો મારી મમ્મી સાથે. તો હું અને મારી મમ્મી અમે પેરુ ગયા હતા. Gaya hata or gayatas for like a group of people. So I went with my mom. There's more than one of us. So હું અને મારી મમ્મી અમે પેરુ ગયા હતા અને હું માચુ પીચુ ગયો હતો. માચુ પીચુ પેરુમાં છે. ને જ્યારે હું માચુ પીચુ ગયો હતો ત્યારે એ હાઇક મને લાગે છે 4 દિવસનો હાઇક હતો. I think. So it's a 4-day hike. The 4 દિવસ માટે હું ચાલ્યો. 4 દિવસ માટે. So 4 days. So I walked 4 days. Sounds kind of funny, 4 days. Anyway, so હું 4 દિવસ માટે ચાલ્યો. If you're a woman, you would say હું 4 દિવસ માટે ચાલી. ચાલ્યો for men, ચાલી for women. તો હું 4 દિવસ માટે ચાલ્યો મારી મમ્મી સાથે. અને હા ખબર નહીં હું આ ફોટો જોતો હતો. I was looking at this picture. હું આ ફોટો જોતો હતો. હું આ ફોટો જોતો હતો. If you're a woman, you'd say હું આ ફોટો જોતી હતી. So I was looking at this picture, this one right here. આ જે ફોટો છે અહીં. તો હું આ ફોટો જોતો હતો. ને પછી મેં પેરુ માચુ પીચુ વિશે મેં વિચાર્યું. મેં માચુ પીચુ વિશે વિચાર્યું. So Machu Picchu is Machu Picchu. Vishe is about. So Machu Picchu Vishe is about Machu Picchu. In English, we put the about first. Like I would say about Machu Picchu, about this dog, about this computer, about this story, about whatever. In Gujarati, Vishe goes after. Machu Picchu Vishe, Calgary Vishe, Canada Vishe, Achopri Vishe, Avarta Vishe. Vishe goes after. So હું માચુ પીચુ what did I say? I said મેં માચુ પીચુ વિશે વિચાર્યું. વિચાર્યું means I thought. So I thought about Machu Picchu. મને ખબર છે કે આ ફોટો માચુ પીચુ નથી. એ તો મને ખબર છે કે આમાં ખાલી એક પર્વત છે. So પર્વત એટલે mountain. તો આમાં આ ફોટામાં oh that's another example of that. When I first started the Gujarati practice, I said that whenever we use the word ma for in, also happens for par, like on. So if I said like in this picture, a fota ma, we have an a at the end of fota. We have to make it rhyme with ma. A fota ma. We would not say a photo ma. Again, if you want a whole video on that, I can make a separate video. I'm happy to. I don't want to get too bogged down in grammar today. But anyway, મને ખબર છે, I know, મને ખબર છે કે આ ફોટામાં આ માચુ પીચુ નથી. આ ખાલી પર્વત છે. પર્વત is a mountain. આ પર્વત છે. Okay, let's do another picture. Let's have some fun. Here we go. This isn't inspiring me. This is definitely not inspiring me. આ ફોટામાં શું થાય છે? એ બરફ છે કે શું છે? I don't know what's happening here either. I don't like that either. That's boring. Okay, these are definitely... Okay, is that a radish or a tomato? I don't know. I'll say one thing about this picture and that's it. આ ફોટો વિચિત્ર છે. આ ફોટો વિચિત્ર છે. વિચિત્ર એટલે Vichitra means like what do you say in English? Like weird or strange. આ ફોટો વિચિત્ર છે. Actually, આ બધા ફોટા વિચિત્ર છે. All these pictures that are coming up, બધા ફોટા, બધા's like all. આ બધા ફોટા બહુ જ વિચિત્ર છે. ખૂબ જ વિચિત્ર છે. I don't like any of these pictures. Anyway. Okay, let's do maybe one more. Ooh, that's kind of cool. It's not inspiring me though. No, I don't like that either. Huh. Okay. It's funny. Let's see here. Okay. Sure, I have a couple things I could say here. I don't know what's going on, but I have a funny story. It has nothing to do with this, but I'll still tell you. So હું કેલ્ગરીમાં રહું છું. So I live in Calgary. હું કેલ્ગરીમાં રહું છું. કેલ્ગરી કેનેડામાં છે. ને ડાઉનટાઉનમાં Calgary Tower છે. So in downtown we have the Calgary Tower. એક ખબર નહીં એક ફોટો મળશે કે નહીં ગૂગલમાં. Like search for Calgary Tower. છે આ Calgary Tower. તો મેં આ ફોટો જોયો. So I saw this picture. મેં આ ફોટો જોયો. મેં આ જોયું. I saw this. I actually don't know the word from. Do I know the word for mushroom in Gujarati? I actually don't know the word. We can learn it together though. Gujarati to English. I actually don't know the word. We can learn it together. Mushroom. Well, that's interesting. Mushroom. Okay, we're getting mushroom. So perfect. We'll stick with that for now. So मैं आ mushroom જોયું. ને પછી મને થયું કે આ Calgary Tower જેવું છે. So I'll say that one more time. તો મેં આ જોયું આ ફોટામાં mushroom. So મેં આ જોયું. I saw this. આ mushroom. પછી મેં વિચાર્યું. Then I thought, I said I said that earlier. પછી મેં વિચાર્યું. I thought, મેં વિચાર્યું કે Calgary Tower જેવું છે. This is like, so જેવું is like a comparative word. We used to compare two things. If one thing is like another, I can say Calgary Tower જેવું છે. It's like the Calgary Tower, or yeah, it's like a word we can use to compare two separate things. And actually, actually I won't say that. That's a little bit too silly. Okay, chalo, let's finish up there. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I hope that was a useful episode for you. And I'll see you next time. Aujo. Bye.